Hello, hi everyone. Welcome to the Diversity and Inclusion Talks at SEATCOT. We are connecting you from La Ramblas, from SEATCOT offices. So for the ones who don't know SEATCOT, we are let's say coding hub, and we are working for different mobility solutions for all Volkswagen Group. And today we are having our second diversity and inclusion talks. We are very proud of this. And during this talk, we are going to talk about LGBT plus rights and at workplace, coming out, not coming out, and the impacts of all of this. So today we have great panelists. I am very proud to have everyone here. I will be the moderator of this talk. So we have Thomas Myers, Chief Governance and Legal Officer at SEATCOT and Cupra, and at the same time he is one of the board of directors at SEATCOT. We have Carla, and Carla is today going to represent Conservatory contra l'Omofobia. And we have Jose from SEATCOT, my coworker, and he's a software engineer. So you may ask why we are here today and what we are going to talk about. We are going to mostly improvise. We are going to share our personal experiences. I guess this is more important than just reading or going through some statistics. It's more genuine and it's more true and more inspiring. But I will use this chance to introduce some of the terminology that we will be using throughout the panel. So why we are here today, but before, excuse me, I just forget always, I want to talk about a little bit logistics. So this panel will be recorded. You will have access later on our website and on YouTube. The participants, all 9 participants will be muted. So at the end we are going to also have a Q&A session. You will share your questions, you will be able to share your questions on a written format. And turning your camera on will not be possible. On the other side, as I said, please write your questions in the chat. We will, at the end, read your questions and answer. And we are here with good intentions. So I would like to just briefly talk about the online code of conduct. This environment is welcoming, safe, respectful, and ethical and inclusive. So we invite everyone to embrace all of these items we are supporting. So why we are here today? We are here because we are celebrating the June, the Pride Month. So if you have never heard about Pride Month, this is the time we are embracing the uniqueness of every individual. Pride Month is being celebrated since 1990s because there were some riots in the US, and after these riots, LGBT society, community, they gained significant rights in the US and around the globe. So today we are here just to celebrate this important month and show our support to the LGBT community, and also see as individuals what we can do to support this important topic. And normally this Pride Month is celebrated with marches, with parades, but yeah, due to COVID, unfortunately this year we have very limited way to support and show our support. So I will start with some terminology, as I mentioned, because when we were talking about this event, some people are asking me, what is LGBT? And I can genuinely understand. If you are not really familiar with these terms, it's like another language. And it is nice to talk about them loudly at work and use them as part of our daily language. So lesbian, LGBT, it's just the first letters of multiple definitions. And lesbian, a woman whose primary sexual orientation is toward people of the same age. Gay, a man who is attracted only to other men. Bisexual, a person emotionally, romantically, or sexually attracted to more than one sex, gender, or gender identity. And transgender, transsexual, someone whose gender identity differs from gender at birth. And transsexual refers to a person who lives full-time in gender different than their assigned birth and gender. So here it is very important because many people are not familiar with this concept, but gender and sex, they are different topics. I don't know, have you ever I personally know many people, they are having different difficulties, let's say, differentiating these two terms. And I found nice, let's say, graphs to explain this. First, to differentiate gender from sex, and to explain what is non-binary. as you can see, I'm not going to repeat again, but gender identity and gender expression, they are mostly socially influenced, and it is selected by the person, how you feel, how you want to express your gender. Sex is something else. It is biological, and it is about your chromosomes, your hormones, and your organs, genital organs mostly. And sexual orientation is to whom, to which gender we feel attracted to. And actually between all of these, you might be everywhere. You don't have to be woman or man as gender identity. You can be gender queer. We are going to talk about this. Or even biological sex is not binary anymore. It is not like this or that. We are talking about more than binary definitions, a big range of endless possibilities actually. And I want to show you one nice graphic I found in internet. This is a website. It is called genderbread.org. And the full objective of this is explaining in a very simple way the gender expression, biological sex, and sexuality. And as you can see, between being woman and man, or masculine and feminine, you can be anywhere. You can be more close to masculine, closer to feminine. So this is a very nice visualization, because it really shows that we are a unique combination, like a cocktail of these, let's say, 4 different concepts. So I can be anywhere there. So I will continue with some definitions if you want to include anything for the moment. I can continue giving some more definitions if you... Okay, so I want to introduce you to a new also definition, because understanding sex as a spectrum is new to many people, because we are used to understand man or woman, female or male. Intersex is a new concept. It's not a new concept, but let's say it is now openly discussed concept. Intersex, someone whose body is neither fully male or female due to biological reasons. And it's very interesting, because according to the numbers, it's as often as, the probability is as often as having a ginger hair. So yeah, that's very interesting, because it is 1.7% of every individual is intersex, and this is as common as having a ginger hair, red hair. 1 in every 200 people are born with intersex condition. It's when I started to really investigate, I was amazed, because not XX, not XA1 is every 1.666 births, and there is XXY. I don't know if you have heard about this, but it is 1 in 1,000 births. And many babies, they go through some fixation operations to make their physical appearance closer to one of the accepted binary genders, like binary sex, man or female or male. So this normalization of the genetical appearance is a controversial topic right now, because it is done without your consent while you are a baby. So this is another topic we can discuss. As I said, now more and more people, they are introducing themselves as intersex. You can see some examples. Mokadi Castersemania, she's 2009 world champion at 800 meters, and she has other 2 championship. And in 2000, it was I guess in 2021, she could go back to the running, because they wanted her to get tested and re-verified her sex, because she is born with XX, but then her testosterone levels are higher, but genetically higher than a normal, let's say, standard woman. And they wanted to have, they asked her to have a test again to verify her gender, and then she could come and start running again. And also she's advocating the intersex people to be able to run in the Olympics. On the other side, Hida Viloria is also the first person who openly claimed that she's intersex in the mass media. She's an activist. I shouldn't call her she, actually, because the pronouns she selected, let's say, they. So they claimed for the first time on the mass media, they is actually intersex, like Hanegabi Odil, a supermodel. They also, for the first time in 2017, openly explained that they are intersex. And they wanted to be called they instead of she or he. They went through an operation as a baby. Because they have an internal testicles, and they had to hide it all her model life until 2017. Likewise, just like sex, gender is also non-binary. As we discussed, gender, you choose it, it can evolve, it can change, and it is personal choice and highly impacted by the society, as I mentioned. And non-binary describes any gender which doesn't fit to male or female binary spectrum. And this is also important because it's not something new. When I was again reading about it, I just saw that in historically in many civilizations they already had a third gender which doesn't fit to standard male or female, and we have to acknowledge that most transgender people are not non-binary. They are even female or male, and also we understand that it's not about intersex, being intersex. They are different topics. And I just investigated a little bit. Actually, hijras in India, Bangladesh, Nepal, it is recognized third gender, and it is officially recognized. It is not like it's a community. It is legally recognized third gender. At the same time, in Hawaii, Mahus, they are also officially recognized third gender. So this Western understanding of binary gender is, I would say, something new. And we had this all around the universe, not probably universe, all around the world in different times, and too separated by Native Americans. Also, they had this non-binary aspect. And this is a very fresh new from June 2025. For example, now in New York, drivers, they can choose X as gender. So now there will be three options: female, male, and X, who doesn't want to be identified with both of these binary definitions. So I talked a lot because I wanted to take this opportunity to explain a little bit what is gender, what is sex, what is the difference, and now why we are here talking about this, because this concept is very, very new to many people. Being a combination of different concepts. And now, as you can see, driving license or talking about intersex is something very new. People are finally coming out, they're talking about their sexual orientation, or they're talking about their uniqueness. And this is a little bit even still more complex at workplace. So this is actually our main discussion today. And we want to understand how it impacts coming out or not, your career choice, or your career growth. And for this, I will just let Jose to talk about a little bit his own experience, and then we can discuss together a little bit about this, because as I said, coming out, by the way, again, a definition is just acknowledging, accepting, and sharing with your family, your colleagues, that you are identified with this specific sex or gender. But coming out at work is still very low. These numbers are basically mostly from the US, but half of the LGBT plus members, they are still in the closet. That's the term again used by the community. And for example, in the UK, 35% of the employees, they hide because they have a fear of discrimination. And 20% they avoid some special events like parties, just not to face maybe some questions, and also 25% avoid certain people at work. So these are, I don't know, sad and concerning numbers, and I believe it's very important to hear a real life story. That's why I will leave the stage to Jose.
Actually, I would like to talk a little about reasons for why people stay in the closet at the working place. Mostly, I think there are three main aspects of it. First of all, is internalized homophobia. It's a process that you have to overcome over the years. You have to go to a psychologist, in my case, and it's a process. And that is one of the first things. I mean, you grow up in a society that depicts that LGBT people are second-class people. Okay, you are less valuable. You are not worth it. So you have to overcome that, and this is a process. It takes. Some people never achieve it. I think I did somewhat. And then this is the first reason, and it's up to the person at some point to manage that. We cannot do that anything at that point. I think it's the person's decision to come out or not. Okay. The second one is whether the workplace feels a safe place or not. This is not only for LGBT people, but for everyone, for women, for other minorities, for everyone. So the thing that we can work, everyone can work here is like make the office to feel a safer place. I think this is pretty safe today, nowadays, no? And the last one is that by coming out other people in the workplace, you encourage other people to do so because you signal it's safe to do so. Okay, so for example, myself, I'm here. Okay, so it's safe and nothing wrong is going to happen. Just that. I think this is more or less the 3 points that I wanted to remark. So, and then the reason to come out, there are studies that shows that coming out is better for your mental and physical health, for example. So it's good for the people to come out. The studies have shown that the levels of cortisol and adrenaline lowers when people come out. You have less stress. You don't have to be obsessed about someone to find out. You cannot be blackmailed because the worst scenario you can fear of are all gone. Okay, so this is perhaps the main reasons. And some people say, why should I come out? And I say, okay, straight people came out every day. When they talk about their partners openly, or their children, or the whatever, they came out every day. So LGBT people should also do that, okay? Because it's also a matter of visibility and make other people to feel less alone if they know that they are not the only ones in the workplace that are LGBT. So, finally, that's true. Your relationship with the working mates will be more honest and authentic. I mean, if someone asks me why did I went with my wife this weekend to Los Alpes, what did you do? I went with my boyfriend for trekking. Okay, that kind of things normalize, which is I think the point. Normalize the relationship in the office. So it's not about stating publicly, okay, I'm gay, hello, no. It's about talking about your intimacy or about your privacy, private life with your working mates, which rise confidence in the workplace. It's about that. And finally, the other thing I've been thinking about is white pride. It's a bit weird because, okay, there is not a pride for straight people, no? But it's not about that, actually. It's not about pride. I mean, I think that little people are openly proud of being gay. It's not like that. What you're doing is stating that you are not ashamed of being gay, okay? Which is a different thing. But the opposite of being ashamed is to be proud. But it's not. This is why the pride. I mean, you are stating publicly that you are not embarrassed, or you don't want to hide, or you are not ashamed of being gay, because shame kills people. Okay. And I don't know what else. Basically, by repeating it, you overcome it. You fake it until you make it, and they say, something like that. So you are not proud, you are just you accept it, okay? But it's not a real pride, in my opinion. Okay. So.
Yeah, I guess it's. Thank you very much. First of all, I don't know. It's really nice to hear so openly, which also shows that we are a really safe place at Southcote.
Sure.
But is it really like that? Do you really need to fake it until you make it, or is it really? I don't know. In your case, you said that you needed kind of a support and therapy.
Because, yeah, exactly. I went to a therapist, which actually was intersexual, by the way. And well, it was like a process. One of them is the pride is like a process that you have to not only state it like it's like acting like that, okay? Because it's like a therapy. You know, you go forward. You have more courage. You don't have that fear of being rejected and so on. I think it's more like that. And well, I had something in my tongue, but now it's gone.
Okay. And would you like to add anything? Maybe?
Yeah.
First of all, thanks for inviting me. I think this is really nice. I'm now in contact with.
And the microphone is very low.
No, it's not. It's okay. See? Yeah. Okay. So now it's better. Yeah. Super. So now that the mic is fine, so thanks again for inviting me. I mean, I'm now in contact with Code and the Code colleagues since end of last year, and it's really like very open as you described it before, like the Code values, and I really feel that also today. It's a very relaxed group. We talk about topics which, in my view, are very important, and I would say a couple of words about myself in a minute. And it's not an easy topic. I mean, we could probably spend an entire day discussing the various dimensions of what you showed, and there are actually many more which are under the umbrella of diversity, whether it's the topic of compared to this, the simple topic of women in companies, women in management, where we are overall, where we need to do a lot. It's about age, it's about, where are people coming from, what kind of social background are people coming from, do they all have the same opportunities or not. So with regard to myself, saying a couple of sentences, maybe I'm now 50, so I'm no longer 20 or 25, so my coming out is quite a while ago. And when I was at school, I mean, that was not really a topic at the time. It was easy in university because, I mean, you were busy studying and you had your friends around you and you said I'm gay and nobody cared, actually. And then when I started to work at the time, I was differentiating very much between work and private life. And then I remember that one day I told, that was a law firm in Germany, and I told some of my partners that I'm gay, because they said, okay, with which lady are you going to the cinema tonight? And I said, it's not a lady, it's another man, which was very interesting. They were really relaxed, even though it was a very conservative environment, super conservative environment. And then when I had the next job, which was maybe 3 years later, outside of that firm, so I switched to a company, to my first company. Since then, and also when I switched to other jobs afterwards, I always mentioned it in the first interview. So for example, in the job afterwards, they said, so what about your wife, your girlfriend? Is she okay with moving to that other city for the new job? And I said, it's not a woman, it's a man, and he's totally fine. And then you actually saw a little bit the reaction, and you saw, are people okay? If they are not okay, they are probably not hiring me, which is probably better for them and for me. So I never had a problem with that. So I always try to plug it in, and let's say that worked well. To make the story a little bit funny, I'm not normally like dancing in a colorful shirts like today, which I actually am wearing for you, Kirsten.
Thank you so much.
because it's a very colorful and proud day today. But you know, I've always worked in more or less, let's say, conservative environments, and I remember all the silly jokes that people make. Sometimes or in most of the times, they didn't know that I'm gay. So, and most of the times, especially when I got older, I always told them afterwards or in between, and then people shut up but were relaxed. So sometimes they didn't mean it in a bad way, but still, you know, I mean, I'm a little bit tough when it comes to these jokes, so I don't have a huge problem, but you don't know about other people. So now I'm here just for a couple of months at SEAT and Cupra, and I'm here with you once in a while at Code. But I've been before in the Volkswagen Group for more or less 11 years now. And there, like here, we also have Volkswagen started an LGBT plus group recently, not long ago, only like 3 years ago. SEAT started about 2 years ago, and you see all the overall topic is still young, yeah? And then when you are thinking of putting people together, for example, like a panel like this, also with external expertise, you know, it's not from the company, it's sometimes easy, it's sometimes hard. And I just want to mention one example where it's really hard. If you are trying to find managers, upper management, top management, maybe board members in the big group, it's really hard to find people, first of all, to get to know them because they are not visible if they are out there, or to convince them to participate. And that's still for me a sign that there's a lot of work that we need to do together. So I'm very happy to be here today and maybe add a little bit to that topic.
And SEAT, you mentioned that we have already an LGBT
Yes.
support group.
Yes.
I don't know, were you aware of this, for example? Or how does it work? Do we need to, sorry, it's internal maybe, but it's also important to understand maybe company offers something, but how individuals might be aware of this?
It's on the intranet. It's on the intranet, and it's also communicated internally, but also externally.
Okay.
So we are also on the social media. It's a group which is growing. Mm-hmm. It's really growing quite nicely, and we're meeting from time to time. Like last week or the week before, we met, and we were like 20 people meeting. So we were able to meet in person, which was really nice for the first time, I think, since a couple of months. And then there are activities organized, mostly online at the moment, and some communications, and the goal is also that people see it. You know, if they want to join, that they see it, that they know a couple of faces and names, for example, my face, my name, and then they can come to us and say, hey, what is it? Does it make sense that I participate? Pop, 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 pop.
I guess it's especially important once you have at C-level, you know, someone openly supporting this, because automatically it is like the company culture is approving this right away. I guess it's a very important message or signal to outsiders and also insiders. And Carla, once again, welcome. And also, I guess I would like to also hear your experience, because when we talked about before, you made a career change, you went to a boot camp, you became a software developer, and then how did it feel like, you know, coming out in your case? Were you like Tom right away at the beginning mentioning this, or did you receive questions, or you had to, like Jose, I don't know, internally prepare yourself?
Well, when it comes to my personal experience in this issue, actually, first of all, I must state that I am a privileged woman in this sense, because I am not representative at all of most of the transgender women and the issues they face. Why? Because I could have access to a good education and support from family, and some situations that I believe that make my situation out of the normal for what it is for transgender persons, no? But my personal, that's why, I feel very lucky, no? But mostly, first of all, when I came out of the closet, it was in my family business. So it was like an ultra safe place to come out of the closet, no? And we knew each other for 15 years, so it was weird for some of them maybe to get used and so on. But it was mostly positive and rewarding for everyone involved, no? Mm-hmm. But it's true that when this family business changed, I had studied originally law, no, to become a lawyer. And it's true that when I started to look for a job in the law world, I saw that it would be difficult for me, no? Because even in the interviews, some questions that I was asked that, I mean, I could have come out of the closet at that moment, but I knew that probably that would disqualify me. And that's why, as a matter of fact, I decided to take a different direction and learn to develop and so on, thanks to a bootcamp. And also because I knew that it is known that the IT world is more liberal, to say it somehow, than the juridic world, which is like very conservative and very male-dominated, very straight, very conservative after all. And in this sense, as I said, my personal history is one that's very special and doesn't represent the whole transgender reality, which is quite more harsh than this.
But in your case, for example, you were mentioning that your family case was a privileged and safe place, but for many people it is opposite,
no,
right?
Not.
It is like the family is the last.
No.
The last ones.
See, it's like this. I mean, when in some situations I've got to know, which were really tragic, to see teenagers which are actually expelled, underage, which are expelled from their family home when they come out as LGBT persons. These kind of things sort of break your heart a bit and let us know that there's still a lot of work to be done by the whole society, really.
And now you have a full-time job as a developer.
Yes.
And are you open there? Did you come out?
Yes. It was sort of an indirect way because, the CEO decided to make an ADI principles and these kind of things, no? And I volunteered to help, no? And then I mentioned, by the way, okay. And that's about it. I remember one funny joke with one of my teammates, no? Because recently, this is a bit personal, but I don't care to share it to the world. I had a hair transplant surgery because I was a bit ashamed of my male hairline, no? So I had already talked to most of the teammates, but this one in particular was on a holiday when I mentioned this. And yes, because I did this because I was a bit ashamed. And he said, and thanks, you were not a man, because if not, this would have been worse. No? And everybody was like, he doesn't know that she's transgender. And I was like, Jose, it was funny, no? But I mean, this little anecdote. But yes, mostly as you can see, it was very straightforward. The good thing is that nothing changed, but you always have the fear that things will change, no? So, but this is something that I believe that you must go through. As you said, in order to see that maybe it's not the right place for you, and neither you are the right person for them, and to show yourself that you really are, after all.
And Carla, it's just a personal question, because we had the previous diversity inclusion talk about women's empowerment. And again, we discussed about, with facts, why we don't have many women, and, some of the unconscious bias about women, and etc. So did you feel anything changed? I mean, because in a male body, you are pursued by the society differently. But after being a woman, in terms of sexual harassment, or I don't know, in terms of rights,
of course. No, this.
Now you're a woman.
When you start to show yourself to the world in your true gender, things change, of course. And one of the first things you notice is how many privileges you lose. No, and then you start to realize many things. But yes, of course, I mean, things change. The good thing is that even taking account all this, but the bad things that society offers you when you're a woman, and especially, if you're a woman, it's already like an underscale in the general male-dominated society, and then if you're transgender, you are one step lower even, and then if you are transgender woman and racialized, then so you can keep going down, no? You can go down as low as you, as one of you. So yes, things change. Some of them, of course, for the better, because you feel now more free, more confident, and you show yourself as you really are. But it's true that from a social perspective, you lose some many things.
So from my point of view, you went through two challenges. First, coming out as a transgender woman, and the second, facing the society, same society, this time as a woman, as you said, by losing the privileges of men. Thank you very much. It was really touching. As a woman, I really understand you. So I would like to again introduce with this chance some more definitions about phobia. So we have different phobias. Basically, biphobia is the fear or hatred of discomfort with people who love and are sexually attracted to more than one gender. And homophobia is the hatred and fear of LGBTQ plus people. And homophobia includes prejudice, discrimination, harassment, acts of violence brought on by fear and hatred. And it occurs, this is the sad part, on personal, institutional, and actually society level. And transphobia is the fear or hatred of transgender people, people who don't meet basically the gender role expectations of that particular society. And microphobia, microaggression, the many small ways in which LGBTQ plus members are reminded of their inferiority by the dominant culture. I have to say that I am not really agreeing with this definition, because this inferiority is not correct, but somehow pressured, let's say, by the dominant culture. And here it is important to also mention them, because sometimes we are behaving and talking in a way that we don't really realize, that we are behaving in that way as an unconscious bias, or if it is part of the microphobia. So I would like to ask first, you are very knowledgeable in this because you are working, I know, as a legal advisor.
With the L'Osservatorio contro l'Omofobia.
Yes. So at workplace, this kind of LGBT-related phobias. You mentioned a joke, for example. Have you felt anything, or maybe some stats or personal, stories of the members of the NGO? Well,
as a matter of fact, homophobia is a reality that permeates the whole society. No, while it's true that it's not as blatant as someone being kicked in the face on the street, which is of course something that's terrible. It also exists in the workplace, but shows itself in more subtle ways, no? And maybe because they are subtle, sometimes they are more insidious too, because they are harder to chase them, no? To get hold of them. That's why we call them sometimes microhomophobia, because it's this kind of little, very regular expressions that are homophobic, but they are not so serious, to say it somehow, as to make it into to the court, Because if someone kicks you in the face because you are gay or lesbian or whatever, of course, if you are lucky, you take the aggressor to the court, and he gets a fine, whatever. I'm digressing a bit. Yes, but what I mean is that the fact that they are smaller in consequences doesn't mean that they have to be ignored. And that's why I say always that if, in whatever context, at the workplace, an LGBT person feels like it's being harassed or has to face sniding comments, or sometimes, someone goes by and says an insult, but doesn't say it to your face, it's like mariconaza, and goes away, something like this. These kind of things happen, maybe, happen still. What I want to say is that then report it to human resources, report it to institutions like Observatorio contra la Homofobia, but take action against this. The consequences will be whichever they can be done, no? But don't let it, don't ignore it.
And what are the examples, if you can share, for example, like the microaggression or?
Well, microaggressions are very difficult. At this moment, I can't think of anyone, but I remember, for example, an experience I had in one of my former companies, that one of the working mates was leaving the company, and we bought him some presents and prepare a party for him, and finally everybody was giving him a hug, and when I approached him, he rejected me and get away. Yeah.
He didn't give you a hug?
No, he didn't. Yeah, I was thinking, okay, shaking the hand. No. In front of everyone, yeah.
Is this more than micro?
Yes,
it's pretty blatant, but the thing that you cannot take legal action against this kind of.
And he was a very working mate. He worked with me side to side for 2 years, okay. And everybody was like, wow. So this is the real person we didn't know. Not only me, but my other working mates were like.
And can you, for example, report this?
Well,
is
to
like
human resources. Yes, it's what I said, that you cannot take legal action against this. But if you have a good director, something to talk in the corporation that feels like they care about this thing, no? Because if you report this to the boss, and the boss says, this is don't, it's not that important, then the thing
grows
and badly. So, but it's okay. Let me talk with whoever has done this, and so on. Then, and when you feel acompañado, no?
Exactly. Yeah.
Tom, have you ever experienced this kind of microphobia?
Yes, a couple of times, but not really often. And normally what I did then was to ask the person if he or she knows that I'm gay. And then you normally have a really nice red face of the other person, and but it was never so strong that I, as you say, needed to take action, whether inside or outside. My partner had some issues. He's Asian, and he had some issues in our private life. He was attacked, and then we also went to the police and did the whole process. The outcome was, let's say, minimal. It was really small, but I totally agree with Carla. We need to always actively go against it, whether it's in the company. We have the HR department. Maybe we have a whistleblowing hotline. Maybe you have a diversity department. You need to do that. Don't ignore it, even if it's small. If somebody doesn't want to shake your hand or my hand, whatever, we're at the end of the day, we're not going to die. But if something more happens, like any kind of hate words, sentences, aggression, we should always go after it, whether it's now in the office or in private life. Otherwise, it's not going to change. It's not going to change.
The problem is, I guess, in companies, we are not really used to this kind of consciousness. There are in many languages like jokes or cynical comments. In Turkish, for example, my mother tongue, if there is a saying, don't walk like a gay, or don't talk like a gay, for example, this is like it's insulting, and it's very commonly used actually at work or between men. Because they never consider, again, they presume that everyone is straight and this is something bad, and they can joke around this. So as you said, I guess it's very important to report this or mention that you are sensitive to these kind of jokes. It's a very unrelated example, but when a taxi driver or someone calls me guapa, I get really pissed off. And I'm saying, why are you calling me guapa? Do you think that this should make me feel, overwhelmed or nice? We don't have such a relationship with you, and I don't want you to call me a BT or baby. So this kind of, I guess we have to continuously show reaction, just to remind people that this is not correct.
May I add one other
Please.
aspect? And you said it already, because it's like, for people, it's let's say for many people it's a new topic, because maybe they don't have this lesbian friend, the gay friend, the trans person, etc., that they know maybe from their family or from their friends or a friend of a friend. So it's something new to them. So for me, when it comes to the work environment, I think it's really important that we are building these networks, and that we really go into the different dimensions. Now today we are talking about LGBT and the wider LGBT community and topics and rights. And then you mentioned you had that other discussion about women, where a lot of work needs to be done. Age is always a question, when companies maybe think they should get smaller because it's not the most prosperous time, who needs to go first? Normally the older people, or they need to go in early retirement. Sometimes also the younger ones. Where are people coming from? They have a different color of their skin, and people might be used to it, and people might not be used to it. It doesn't matter. We are all the same. So I think creating these networks and also advocating for the network so that they grow and people are participating is super important to show the rest, which is the majority. It doesn't just need to be white, male. Here is Spanish. In Germany, where I'm coming from, it's mostly German male, who maybe even have a similar background. But it's really the majority. So the majority needs to see there is a minority, but we're not just talking about Jose, Carla, and me. We are talking about a real percentage, whatever that is. We normally say it's somewhere between 7 and 10%, which is huge. So it's a minority, but it's not small. And I think we need to make sure that people see us. Because only if, and then we need to make sure, like here today, that they really see our faces and our names, and that we have more people joining that and advocating for the topics. Because if somebody does that, passes by you and just whispers some shitty words, there need to be more people who stop that. It shouldn't just be you, Carla. It shouldn't just be me. It should also, the others should be more people. And so I think this activity that we need to do in order to build networks, in order to discuss with HR, discuss with diversity, what do we do, what kind of activities do we do, how do we communicate it internally, where do we maybe connect externally with what kind of associations, maybe getting people in, showing, hey, it's normal, it's not something strange, it's just normal. Similar like in school, like in school, huge taboo, LGBT plus, huge taboo, people don't want to talk about it. We just had the case that the Vatican sent somebody to Italy to say you can't introduce this law, whatever, because then people start talking about it at school. So, and what do you do at school? Some brave people go to school and say, hey, I'm gay, but I have a job, I have a family, whatever, my family loves me, I love my family, things like that. And nothing else we need to do in the companies, because there is a lot of people, there's aggressive people, who maybe hate us because we are as we are, but there is also a lot of people who are potential allies, they just don't have the knowledge. If you had asked me all your very detailed definitions today, I would probably have said, okay, 20%, I have no clue what it is. So I mean, there is this education process which is important. Yeah.
When I started to, be an ally, let's say, on diversity and inclusion, well, I have many friends. I was lucky because my best friends, I had many gay best friends, lesbian best friends. So I was really used to the concept. And for me, it was always, normal and part of the main society. But when I started to work on this, I was a little bit, at my previous company especially, I was always saying that we have to take some actions, but more concrete actions, like HR committing this, etc. And we were also having some small stuff like lanyards, rainbow. I was never a big fan of these things. I was saying that this is not changing anything. We have to do, more, tangible stuff. These are just showing like a support. Then I started to realize, no, actually it has big impact. Like showing that, proudly carrying something representing your support to the LGBT community. Of course, you continue pushing in the corporate level, legislation level, policy level, concrete rights. But on the other side, I guess in personal level, just showing your support, being open to, discuss this, it is really important. Then I realized that, okay, I really appreciate right now that small identifiers that showing that I am an ally, I am part of LGBT plus community. Okay, so this is the topic also I want to talk about. The most important factors, according to the surveys, that makes a company LGBT friendly is anti-discrimination policy, LGBT plus individuals in the leadership positions, which we have, other LGBTQ employees, and work benefits that can apply to LGBTQ couples. So on one side, majority is looking for these kind of things to feel safe, to come out, or to apply to companies. But on the other side, when we look at numbers, fewer than 0.3% of Fortune 500 board directors were openly LGBT in 2020. There is one person who came out in 2018, Bedford, became the CEO of the Land O'Lakes and first openly gay woman to run a Fortune 500 company. Only 81 countries, I guess out of that many countries, only 81 countries prohibit discrimination in employment because of sexual orientation. And 20% of LGBTQ Americans have experienced discrimination based on sexual orientation or gender identity when applying for jobs. So my question is really how the career opportunities are for LGBT members, because you were mentioning that either people are getting quieter or more shy when they get higher in the positions, or they never have this opportunity to grow in their careers. And especially, again, statistics show that transgender people, especially, they have fear of sustaining the work security, the secure job. So I would like to also, have you ever faced a discrimination? We talked about this a lot when we were talking about women's empowerment. You getting pregnant, or you as a woman having to have time for your family, etc. This unconscious bias create some blockers, let's say, in your career growth. And many big companies, we see board of directors are 90% men. So then when we talk about LGBTQ members, I believe it is even more complicated. So do you think, for example, in your case, do you have career growth aspirations? Do you think this will be an issue in the future? Or
I don't have a redundant answer to this. I believe that, luckily, because I'm a positive person, I believe that no. But that's just my personal opinion. But it's true that, for example, there is a couple of months ago, in April, I believe, La Universitat Pompeu Fabra published some research team in there published a report saying how there was the gender gap when it comes to salaries was also being applied to gay men, but also to lesbian women in very different but very curious, to say it somehow, ways. How, for example, according to this study, gay men who came out, when they were about to be hired and the hirer knew that the person was gay, it was probable that he would get less salary than an hetero one. But it also showed that when it came to lesbian couples, they made more money than than hetero women. It was sort of a curious study, no? When it comes to salaries and salary expectations in context with the LGBT world, no? I don't know. I believe that in my personal experience, I believe that it won't be an issue. Why? Mostly because I'm already in a sector that it's more, as I said before, more liberal than others, no? Where I know that I probably wouldn't even have made through the first door, no? Mm-hmm. So I'm hopeful. In this sense, I'm hopeful, yes.
My concern is only about, when a minority enters to the equal rights, I don't know, they might get exploited, by
yes.
women or less money, maybe.
Because, I understand.
Different ethnical backgrounds, they are
because you must feel grateful because they hired you.
For having this chance.
No, this, I understand perfectly this way of thinking. Personally, I try to avoid it, of course, no, it's because, okay, I know that it's there somewhere in my brain, but it's like, okay, let's not pay attention to this little voice in my head, to say it somehow. But it's true, it's a bad way to face this situation, and if anyone who's seeing this feels this way, like he or she must be grateful because they hired him or her, even though these handicaps, of course, here there's plenty of double quotes, forget about this.
And also it's maybe why coming out is so important, because we can never know if there is such a salary gap or kind of discrimination in corporate or society level or country level, let's say. We can never identify if we don't know actually who is non-binary or who is gay or who is lesbian. So I guess that's also important to, if you can, of course it's a personal choice, but to make it known so that you can be included in the statistic, so we can really compare if there is a salary gap or if there is a career growth gap. Tom, do you know how we can secure that LGBT plus people have the same opportunities, or
I'm a little bit like Carla like you, in the sense that I'm positive, and I'm trying often to, let's say, simplify the discussion. When I say simplify the discussion, or my own discussion, not this discussion here, because we have a lot of topics we're talking about. And what I mean by that is, I'm optimistic in a way that that things are changing. For example, let me give you a very simple example. When before I came to Spain, I was at the Volkswagen headquarters, which is or Volkswagen in Germany is a very big company. Everybody knows that it's one of the largest German companies. And when I got there at the beginning, I have one trans colleague, and she was also engaged in the LGBT community, and also Volkswagen, for example, did a video with her, and she explained a little bit how her story was at the workplace, and that was for me a total eye-opener. And I was like, okay, it's probably a rather, obviously an automotive company, male, a little bit more conservative, maybe less women overall in general. And then we had this lady who was totally relaxed, talking about her experience at work. And then the company did this video and also posted it, used it internally, externally. That was for me already a very positive emotional surprise. And today, or just a couple of months ago, in one of these activities by the LGBT network, we talked about, we had a small panel, and we talked about trans colleagues, and we already had a second one who was working in Volkswagen, also a totally different age. The first one is probably more around, 55, 60, a little bit older than me, and the other one was a much younger colleague who was studying at one of the software hubs at Volkswagen. So I was super happy, and then they had two additional trans colleagues from Audi. One from the Audi headquarters, which is in Ingolstadt, and the other one is Neckarsulm. So I don't want to say out of the blue, you know, people are there. We just need to connect to them, and it's not a huge number who are out at the workplace, I would say, but we connected, or we got to know them. It was a fantastic activity. The panel was great. We learned a lot about simple problems at the workplace, for example, things that worked, things that didn't work, and I think it's important to do this, that others who might think about what do I do, maybe they came out, you know, they always talked about the three coming outs. The one coming out for yourself, the one with the family, maybe you have a separate one with the friends, I don't know, and then with the job, and maybe you change jobs, then you have the next one and the next one, or you change teams in a big company. So that was for me, this was great. And for everybody who participated in this, it was online, but there were like 60, 70 people participating. It was super emotional because it was just fantastic. It was a little bit a different world, you know, because you're not talking about, oh, there is this one trans person, man or woman in this department somewhere in the company. No, we actually have a couple of them. And then I'm asking myself the question, and this is a question I'm asking for all kind of these dimensions within LGBT plus, is, you know, I think, for example, those three are older in the sense like my age or a little bit older. But then I'm thinking about, what about the younger ones? You know, why don't I see more of the younger ones? And my answer is very simple. I think they are super afraid to come out in the workplace because they don't think it's a safe environment, and maybe why aren't there more older ones? Because maybe they did hide what they are at work for maybe 20 years. And maybe then they are struggling with themselves. They might see this network and they might say, okay, I'm going to retire in 5 years or in 10 years, what do I do? So this goes through my head, and I'm always thinking, how can we support all these people, or at least have this inclusive environment that they are able to, if they want, you know, to come out, whether it's as a trans person or gay, lesbian, whatever, I don't care. The thing that's missing is a little bit, or it's not like really missing, but we could have more of it, is role models. You know, role models is, I think it's just super important. I mean, you have a board which is running the company or which is supervising the company, and you have a CEO. And as we all know, most of the CEOs, if not all, but most of the CEOs are male. And most of them are probably not part of the LGBT group. Maybe they are allies. And then the question is, where are they? Why are they not saying something about the topic? Why are they just talking about product, services, purchasing, whatever it is, quality, I don't know. You know, they should say something about these topics. They should say something about people who have the same abilities that we have, people who have maybe different mental, physical abilities. SAP, in Spanish, SAP. SAP is talking about how do you say in English? Autism? Autistic. See, yeah. People who can do a wonderful job, especially at a software firm, you know, who could be totally happy at the job there. The company could be and SAP, the CEO talks about it. You know, other people would never think, why should I talk about it? It's some minority, and they have some disability. You know. I want the CEOs and more people talk about it because, for example, in our case, we are representing 7 to 10% of the people. You know, we are not tiny, we are big actually, but they sometimes ignore us. It's not that others don't raise their voice in Pride Month, Pride Day. Now we have this big discussion about the rainbow flag in Germany, about the EU soccer game and everything. yeah, but I think this is important. It needs to come from the top. It needs to come from the top, and there is still some way to go. We already got better, but there is still some way to go. And that also includes not just, oh, I know these 5 gay people or 5 lesbian colleagues, or I have a lesbian in the board. No, we have trans persons in the company, you know. And if you want to join our company and you're a trans person, happy to welcome you.
Yeah.
Because we value and respect you like everybody else. I just saw in social media in the last couple of days, I saw some really big companies, not our group, but others, who were saying tolerance. Tolerance, we are very tolerant, and tolerance, it's not the right word, and then I always go into the comment and say, you know, I don't want to be tolerated, I want to be respected. And you probably mean that, so maybe just keep that in mind, because you also don't want to be tolerated, you want to be respected. Just like everybody's the same, you know, just give respect like you want to be respected. I just found it, let's say, funny, not in a bad way, but they wanted to do something good, but they were obviously not thinking about the right words, you know. So
language is very powerful. That's you know what you are tolerating,
so
as you said.
Because it came to my mind.
Yeah. What are you tolerating? Well, my experience was, for example, at one of my previous companies, we were trying to, for example, join the parade, and then go there and represent the company. And the company, high level, was scared, and because they had a certain type of user or customer, and they did not want to be associated with certain type of identity. And I was shocked. I was like, how can, and we are in Spain, you know, we are in a very lucky environment, to be really honest, because there are many openly gay events, and I guess, at least my personal experience shows that Spain is quite open in terms of LGBT plus.
Yes.
But still, if you are concerned about that you may lose some of your customers, it's really scary. I don't know if top level, if you have these concerns. And when you were saying it's representing 7 to 10%, I'm not even sure, because for this presentation, I myself learned a lot. You know, I made some research about intersex and all of this, you know, cocktail and this gingerbread man. And I don't know now what I am, because when we discuss about stereotypical women, stereotypical men, what is this? I never got my all hormones checked, for example, if I am 100% women. Or, I don't know, my sexual orientation maybe now towards men, but what is men? Maybe I like men with more feminine qualities, maybe someone else likes more masculine qualities. So it is so difficult to identify. I guess we just need to remove all this LGBTQ plus male, female, woman, man, and we just become our unique self. Because on the other side, it is really difficult to put yourself to, because again, we are avoiding non-binary, but I guess in 5 years we are really going to have so many letters in LGBTQ plus, because each time we are trying to create maybe a new identity or new composition, and include it, which makes it a little bit harder. But yeah, it's another, I guess, discussion.
No, but it's true that it's a spectrum. I also
exactly.
believe that we all move in a spectrum. I mean, there are women there are women who are very hairy, men with high-pitched voices. You know, it's everyone moves in a spectrum. I mean, of course, there are hyper-masculine and hyper-feminine persons, but regular persons, we move in the spectrum, exactly. And we find our place in there, and we try to be happy.
Exactly.
We like labels. I mean, in the Western societies, we like labels. We want to classify things. I think, maybe I'm mistaken, but in the Eastern societies, like more Asian societies, they don't have such a obsessive label classification.
Yeah.
So this began in the 19th century. The necessity to taxonomize everything. That's when, as a matter of fact, homosexuality was coined, the term. Of course, the practice existed before, no? But it was a different context, no? But what can we deduce out of this? That this is all a social issue. It's all a social issue, and what needs to be changed is society. And it can go through education. It's the only way to make real improvements, to make people change, and that's why it's so important having the proper education in diversity, both in the workplace and also, of course, at schools, as you said before, because this is the place where you can start to teach children, persons, whatever, hey, it's okay to not be normal.
Exactly, because normal is
boring. Normal is boring.
Exactly, and unique yourself. No, it will get more and more blended, I guess.
See.
We are not, because as you said, if I try to define a transgender woman who is lesbian, who is expressed more in a male way, but who has also another bit intersex situation, what is the name for this? Because you can be,
Yes.
many things. So it is like then we are going to find another name for it and then add it to. So as I said, it's like at least we are in a good direction. Let's say just acknowledging the diversity we have.
But there's a lot of work to be done.
Exactly.
There's a lot of work.
So that is my next topic. So what can we start doing right away? I just again checked some recommendations. For example, try not to make any assumptions about people's gender. I had a colleague, a lesbian colleague with a wife, and they had 2 kids. And each time when she was talking about with my partner, we have 2 kids. Oh, what does your husband do? Explain. I have a wife, but you have kids. Yes, we do have kids. So it's a kind of a long introduction. So one of the things, again, not having any assumptions. The other one was during the interviews, ask how to call the individuals. I don't know if you are doing this, but I started to see it a lot, even in the job posts. He, she, they.
I've been recommended to put the he, him in the LinkedIn profile, for example, or in or in resumes or something like that. Just as a suggestion, not something mandatory.
Yeah.
And I think it's a nice idea.
Yeah, I mean, I was using it during the last year, I guess, also to support, but I didn't see many people putting they. So that's also another thing. Again, as you mentioned, LGBTQ plus employee resource groups, I guess this is fundamental, that we need to proactively right away start working on this. And non-binary friendly policies, non-discrimination policies, and avoid, of course, sexual jokes. This is one easy thing we can start doing right away, and use gender natural language. There are, again, many examples. Even now, they are, instead of, for example, guys, girls, called folks. There are many examples. And do you educate, for example, your colleagues, your family, to be more sensitive around this kind of, gender sensitive or respectful language or behaviors? Yeah. Did you need to educate, I don't know, your family or your friends?
Well, in my case, I didn't, but just in my case, I think I had enough, especially my parents. But yes, for the next generations, I hope it gets better. I mean, there is a lot, as some say, there is a lot of work to do still, but a long way to go. But I think we're going to make it.
Yes, please.
Well, if you say, did you have the discussion? Yes, I actually, at the weekend, I had a discussion with a couple of old friends, not with one couple, actually with 4 couples. So we were 9 or 10, and we had a barbecue together. And it was really interesting because when we are talking here, or maybe you're talking in the company within the network, or everybody's like super educated, whatever, went to university, I don't know what. But actually that's often a bubble. So we are talking in our bubble. And then with my friends, whom I know for 30 years, like really good old friends, they all have different jobs. Some are teachers, some are, I don't know, work with their hands, which I don't do actually. I'm just scribbling or maybe writing emails. And so a very diverse background of the people. And then we got to the topic of gender overall, diverse people, like in Germany we say male, female, diverse, and you need to do it, so it can also be in your passport, male, female, diverse, like the X that you showed before in the US. And that was outside of the normal bubble, and there were lots of questions where you were really going, where you needed to breathe yourself in and out really slowly. For example, one of my friends said, but we really have other problems, because that's not even 1% of the whatever, trans people, for example. It's not even 1% of the population. And I said, yeah, but, and then we started this discussion. We were starting to fight a little bit with words. And then we calmed down again and we're friends again. So, but there is a lot of things that can be told. Examples, life stories, like what you explain, what I explain. I think that's helpful for others. It's important that everybody, that all these aspects, that you deal with them, that nobody, so to say, falls through the net, because I'm simplifying again, we should be able to respect everybody, and what you said about all the different definitions and the big cocktail, and let's say we have some diversity department today. In 20 years we should no longer have diversity departments, because it should just be normal that people come in and go home afterwards as they like, and we are totally not there. This is why we need all these activities, the departments, the policies, the laws. But this was an eye-opener to talk about a topic where I normally in my bubble I have, you're thinking about the next definition and about, about this, you're going deeper in this side and that side. And in that discussion, we were at the beginning, and they were and they are smart friends of mine, they are not dumb, but they had no real connection to the topics like maybe me in the last couple of years. And that was really an eye-opener. The other thing, when you had it on the wall, what about entering in the job? You had it a couple of times. I think it's important that we connect with the HR departments and the people who hire people, who post the job advertisements. And in one of the next discussions that we have at the Volkswagen Group level, it's going to be about LGBT. How is the relationship to the career? And then we invited one of the leaders, a female colleague of mine, in order to have the HR side on the table. And we had a pre-discussion with her, and she and her quite large team, they are more or less placing all the people whom we need from inside to fill jobs, but also from the outside. So it's probably now still a couple of thousand people. Maybe they are searching for 2,000 people, all the new software people for the Volkswagen Group, etc. And that's going to be a very interesting discussion, because she's very aware, and I think that her team is very aware of the topic. But we want to find out, is there something missing? How can we maybe improve it? I know they are also participating in job fairs for the LGBT community, but that's just one piece, one day a year. So that's great, but let's see. And the first discussion we had with her intro was a little bit, what exactly should be my role in that discussion? And we said, you're representing HR or recursos humanos, and it's so important. And I mean, maybe you need to teach us what you do in this stuff, not we you. So it was really because there was not a big connection between the two topics, the team that hires and the LGBT, so to say, network. So I'm looking very much forward to it, see how this goes. Yeah.
Well, I guess evolve in a good way. as you mentioned this discussion with your friends, I guess the worst thing for me is ignorance. When you said that, but this is not an urgent problem because it's a very, I just understand that you don't know something, that I can explain you for hours and hours and all the definitions I am trying to learn as well. But when people say, come to me and I am not feminist, and I'm like, do you know the definition of feminist? It says that women are superior to men. I'm like, no, let me explain you. And then, as you said, breathe in and breathe out. Or when people say that, but the word is equal. I don't think, we are living in an equal country and everyone can apply to this job, everyone can fight for this. And I'm like, no, it's not that easy. Equality is not equality. So it is like, again, explaining. So that's why I want to share each time, more definitions, how common it is, just to understand that it is not a mistake, it's not a coincidence, it's not sometimes a choice, or it is a choice that you need to respect, and that we need to really get rid of this binary mindset that was established for centuries. And I hope this is going to happen very soon.
As Thomas said, in 20 years, there should be no need to have these kind of talks. There should be no need to
coming out,
to
basically, who
because
are
this would mean that now, now and maybe in the next years, we did the right job. Mm-hmm. And then in 20 years, this won't be necessary. But honestly, I'm optimistic, but not that much.
Come on, you are.
No, it's not.
You just have to stay optimistic.
No, yes, no, but it's true that not. I mean, it won't be so easy. It's not so easy. Because as you mentioned, sometimes you can talk with someone, you can, offering logic and arguments and so on, change his or her mindset, but then, yes, it's true what you said, yes. But then that person goes away and 1 hour later, his mindset has gone back to the original place where it was, no? Mm-hmm. So it's not so easy to change the way people think, and this is what we face, no? Changing through education the way people think.
Well, thank you very much. I don't have any more questions, but would you like to add anything? Because if not, we can maybe ask if we have any questions from. No, we
Perfect.
answered all the questions. Yeah. So we don't have any questions.
Yeah, well, I would like to add as a epilogue, maybe, that for the straight people also, this is important for you. I mean, the first thing is that some people is reluctant to attend. Some straight people is reluctant to attend these events because they also have fear of rejection. But there's a saying that says you don't have to be a woman to endorse women. You don't have to be of color to endorse people of color. You don't have to be gay or LGBT to support LGBT people or attend these events, no? And the other thing is that it's important for them because sooner or later you will have a child or a relative or a working mate that is LGBT, and you will have some awareness on how to deal with them. Okay? So.
And I guess it is the easiest thing now. I mean, so accepting each other as we are, which will bring way more creativity, way more fun, way more acceptance, and it will help us to, I guess, bring us to the next level, the whole humanity. I really believe that once we really learn to trust each other, love each other, and it is going to sound a little bit, but it is really, I guess, once we come to that point, bigger problems, maybe more important problems your friends were mentioning, maybe more economical problems or, income inequalities, etc., they will be resolved, I believe, by themselves. So thank you very much for coming, being so honest, so open, so inspiring, and again, a heart full of love for all of you, and hope to achieve more together. Okay. Thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you.